Hey guys, so I've been working a fair amount on this again, and I've got to the stage where I've actually done some level design for a change. As you can see, it looks fantastic, look at all this skybox and some, you know, fixed in place characters. Yeah, it's fine, it's great, you know. Um, I've finally managed to implement, at least in blueprints, a randomly generated asteroid field. Um, and I did previously have it on the onConstruct method, but it's a little chaotic. But there you go. Now we have this. So if I simulate and I pause. So yeah, if I hit what I'm looking for, is it P? There we go. So this is like the same like floor panel that we had before, but I made it properly see through and stuff now. It was a bit glitchy before. And then what we've got is we've still got the objectives, as you can see with the particle effects and stuff. We've got this really cool frozen mid-flight scene going on here. But I have created some. Oh, sorry, the camera is all over the place. Oh, 5 should be. Yeah, there we go. So I've made some generic asteroid models, again using Cubicle. I messed around a bit. I made 2 different types for now, with the intention of adding hundreds, uh, as however many I feel would be necessary to add some variety to all of this. And so what this is it's an actor that basically spawns in static mesh components at fixed relative locations on begin play. So, with that in mind, I'm going to stop this, and look, they all disappear. So this is the actual level, right? So we've got the nav mesh bounds, we've got all the drones, and the drones are now using a box extent to determine whether there are enemies close by or not. I believe it's more efficient than the constant array lookup system that I was using before. And of course we have the objectives kind of all littered around the map. And then we have the new asteroid field object. Now, as you can see, I've placed it in this corner, so it spawns sort of from this central point, tries to find space within the nav mesh to spawn the asteroids. I put it in the corner because it creates, if I hit play again, there. So you can see they only spawn on sort of this back section around here. And that was because my idea for this level was to introduce a like derelict spaceship, which will be around this objective over here. So I'll get on making that at some point, to be like the introductory sort of here's kind of what my spaceship style is going to be, which will take me a lot longer than the 20 minutes I spent making these 2 asteroids. So I'm going to try and keep this very brief because it's a very basic concept. I put in a lot of code to make it, what am I going for here? To allow you to make it, modify it and stuff. Some proper variables and things so you can change it however you wish. So essentially it's all this is something else I will do about later. So we've got this spawn asteroids method, and all we're doing is the asteroid field has a map which is a key and a value, and the key is the static mesh and the value is the amount it attempts to spawn. Very straightforward. The emphasis on the word attempt, it doesn't always manage to. It always manages to spawn some, just not quite as many as you see on the screen, due to not finding points sometimes. It's a little random, but given that it's done a pretty consistently good job so far, it's been fine. So we're looping through the keys in the array, so this is going to find each static mesh in this list, and I can add more. I can produce loads of static meshes, set the values differently, and then hit run, and it will try and spawn in those static meshes. I think I'm going to change it later on to be more like a ratio, where it tries to spawn, where it picks a static mesh, and then spawns the amount of them here, and then it picks another random static mesh, and it just keeps doing that, or something to that effect. Possibly like a maximum amount, and it calculates approximately, maybe on a percent based thing, how many it should try and spawn, whatever. I'll make it a bit better. So essentially all we're doing is we're looping through each static mesh, and then we're getting the value in the static in the map relative to that mesh. So it'll pull out either 100 or 50. And then it runs my get random location method, which basically just uses get random location in navigable. I cannot say that word. Navigable. Whatever. In a radius that the it finds points within the nav mesh, basically. And it's pretty much what it's trying to do here is we're looping through all other static mesh components, which will be other asteroids, and once it's picked the location, it checks whether or not it's too close. So in here we get the location of the one we spawned, we get the distance from the location we've randomly selected to the location of the static mesh, and if it ever finds one that is set to that's too close, I've got a function here, a concept here that's basically just, let me get rid of that, the distance and the scale times together, as I found this wouldn't, just having a flat minimum distance doesn't always necessarily guarantee that they're going to be near each other, essentially. Sorry, that they're going to be to not, I don't know, it basically stops them from accidentally spawning too close, basically. And it runs recursively, so if this fails, it runs this, comes back into this method, adds 1 to the count, and passes that on to the next, and it does it 10 times before it gives up. So we'll keep running, and this is like we've successfully found a location, this is try again, and this is we've overdone the count. We've tried too many times and it's not going to happen. I will probably be able to do this a lot better in actual C++, which is the intention. But yeah, so that's all there really is to it. We're getting the static meshes, we're getting a random location within the nav mesh. We're setting the transform, which is changing like the scale, giving them random sizes, rotations and stuff. As you can see, like they're all completely different, and if I disable that code, they would all be like how they are imported into the editor and stuff, so you wouldn't get this sort of random sizes and stuff. And then if we stop that again, and then all we're doing is creating a static mesh component, giving it a transform, setting the mesh to the mesh in the loop at the very start here. I'm sure there's a better way to do that. And then we're setting its location to the random location we generated back here. And that's it. It just does that. Nothing more fancy to it, really. And then we get our asteroid field. And as I said, I can just add more types to the list, more static meshes and things, and it will spawn more and more different objects and things. You know, if I wanted, I could add some of the starter content. Like just as a quick example, there was a rock, I believe, of some persuasion. Let me have a look. Wait, can I? Oh, and I can do it from in here, of course. There is I think it's that, yeah, that one. And then we spawn, let's say, 20, or at least 20 attempts is really what it's doing there. And if we hit play now, so immediately just by adding that, we've got these really high quality, not voxel rocks. And they're all at different positions, different sizes. Oh, let me pause it again. So you can see they're kind of intermixed somewhat randomly within all of this, as the rest of them are. And I mean, that's how I want it to be for this type of map, which is going to be, you know, the asteroid fields, which I thought was a fairly straightforward concept, at least for a first map to fully flesh out, to see if all of the features and stuff work. And of course, the other thing that I've done is this skybox in the back. I followed a really useful guide from someone. I think I posted it in under the other video I did where I showed off the level and stuff. But it's called nope. Oh, hang on. I actually have to find it just so you guys can see real quick. There it is, Spacescape. Hopefully this loads. It doesn't take too long. And all it is particle, billboards, and noise generators layered on top of each other. So if I go into this, I open one of my existing ones. This is the one for this game. So this is what it looks like in here. I turn the brightness down because these sort of bluey green areas allowed you to see where it would like start and stop. So you could see the join in between everything, which didn't look very good. I mean, it's so dark in here, but there's certain places where you can see where it joins onto the next section. Anyway, so I was having some trouble with that. But yeah, so it looks like this, and you have all your parameters. I'll name them properly and actually put a lot more thought into it at some point. But it looks very cool. And then we just have our Skybox blueprint class, which I used the YouTube tutorial to make because I've never done anything with skyboxes before. It's a bit weird, some of it, I'll admit. That's just setting the material right. I don't know. There was a lot of properties that he used, and I wasn't really sure what the purpose of some of it was. But whatever. Let's just tidy this up whilst I'm here. Right. That can go down there a bit. There we go. Don't care about anything else. Gotta make sure this is all aligned. Anyway, so it's got some properties that we can set inside or outside of the material. And then it's, I want to say, fairly standard sort of material stuff. I do not understand a lot of this myself. I understand what the maths functions do, I'm just not sure as to their outcome when used in this manner. It's a new concept for me. Wasn't there a way you could... I could have sworn it was possible to like insert a point somewhere in between a line and like drag it around. Anyway, whatever. Well, that's a bit tidier. What's that actually do? Nothing. Okay. So yeah, then that's the skybox. Oh yeah, you can see there's a clear line where this green parts influence that. I mean, if I do, so you've got these parameters. If I make this 1, for instance, then yeah, this is this is what it looks like on full. And even 0.1, there's just a very, very distinct line for a lot of it. Doesn't look very good. I might remove that layer entirely, or maybe try and figure out how to keep it centered within each like section of the cube, which is essentially all it is. You can see there's a corner up there, there's the corner over here somewhere, corner there. So I'll try and figure out if there's like a standard way of managing that, but let's make it real dark. Let's see what this actually looks like, shall we? Yeah, you can't see it at all, can you? Okay. I suppose having it quite large has helped, but I might tweak the scale, the size. Like, I don't know if that's made a difference. This auto exposure thing's very irritating. Anyway, so yeah, so that's the main thing I've done, and I think it makes the game look a lot better. just in general, because now it's all using my own assets. It's the stuff, well, apart from this new rock. And yeah, you can just leave the camera up here and watch them fight. And you know, they have to fly around and avoid the asteroids, of course, because it's the navigation mesh utilizes them, counts them as physical objects and stuff, so that's cool. But it doesn't look like they're on a flat surface as much as it did before. I was trying to move the static meshes a bit more up and down, but for some reason they're like affected by gravity or something, and no matter what I did, I couldn't make them go more up or down. Like, I don't mind if they clip onto the floor because you can't see it. That's just there to for the navigation system. But I'll figure that out because it will be nice to have even more of a 3D effect going on. But it is definitely fun to watch the AI. So that's that. This will be relatively brief because I've done a lot of visual stuff and a couple of changes in combat, which if anyone's been watching this long might note some differences with how the bots are behaving here. And in fact, if I find another fight, so you can see they're moving whilst shooting a lot. I realized that they were very stagnant, and it didn't look very realistic. I mean, not that it inherently looks very realistic, but I also made them stop constantly going straight for the center of the objective. And both of these things have been done with very, very basic changes in the code. So I will very briefly go over this if I can. If I'm able to briefly go over it. So it's all in the AI, of course. So we've got this methods. Did I do it in tick? I did it in tick. Right. So this is where we figure out it when we're in combat. Basically move randomly is essentially what they're doing. And all we do is we get a random reachable point within the navigation radius, within a radius, within the nav mesh. So this is the same premise that the asteroids use for spawning. And then all we're trying to do is we're making sure that the location is at a minimum of 400, whatever that distance is in units, I have no idea. 400 away from the thing that's trying to kill us. And I put an account because this could run indefinitely, which would be unfortunate. And then it keeps searching for a random location within 1,000 whatever, and if it finds one that conforms to this, it moves to the location. I mean, it will move to the location it finds anyway. It just might happen to be within 400 of the target, which is still fine. And it can kind of do this instantly. Like, you don't notice any significant drop in like FPS or anything whilst the bots are trying to do this. I've also made it so it doesn't try and move them if they're already moving, because that would become completely redundant, basically. So yeah, that's all that is. That's literally just find a random point and head towards it whilst in combat, basically. This will eventually go into the states. blah blah blah. Where do we perform actions? Eventually, I will put this into the evading damage state, which is an interrupt state where these other states have more of a transitional go from state A to B to C to D kind of premise, but both evading damage and returning to base will be interrupt based states where you can still have been doing one of these, but evading damage is a higher priority than capturing an objective, because, you know, if you're dead, you can't do anything, of course. And then returning to base will be run when they're critically low, but they're not in combat. So where their health is below like 30%, they'll return to a respawn point, which will inevitably be a base, which will like heal them essentially. That's the intention of those. And both of these will be checked as I'm doing here inside the tick event. So it'll do perform action. It will do these checks and then run perform actions basically. And this would be like the equivalent. It will just basically do this. And then in the evading damage method, we'll run that code that I've got in there. I mean, there's no reason not to do this basically. I suppose I could do it now. I wonder. Well, now we'll get back to that another time. I need to put some proper thought into it. So there's that. I also encountered a couple of situations. Wow, that's spawning. Good grief. Where the AI would be heading towards right there. So I don't know if anyone caught that. These two AI here captured this objective before this one reached it. And I realized there was a corner case I hadn't considered where your teammates capture an objective that you're heading to whilst you're in transit to it. Because previously to that, there was no means of the AI stopping itself from carrying on. So now the objective taken code up here checks whether if we have control over the area and we're in the capturing objective state and the objective that has been taken is the one that we're looking for, then this means that our team have just captured the objective we're moving to, therefore search for another one basically. And that's it. And it really cleaned this up. It's very easy to see it in action when the bots sort of head to an area that somebody's already in, like there. This bot initially started heading up here towards this and would have wasted a lot of time moving towards it. So now they move more proactively, I suppose. So you can see they're doing their little combat dance, somewhat avoiding the projectiles. I will admit that, oh wow, the whole fight's breaking out. I will admit, I think I made the projectile speed a little too fast. And they're still very close to each other. Like, I've set them to a random point within 1,000, but it's still very, very close quarters. They're just fighting over the scenery. I mean, something I really love about this, if I just stop and start, completely different map layout within a second. It's just, there you go. Now we're fighting around these asteroids. If I it's really cool to witness the navigation mesh doing its thing. I also put in some code in the objectives that make them check for static meshes that are static mesh components that are within their radius, and they will basically hide them and set their collision to off if it's in their radius. This allows them to always be accessible to the player and the bots. And yeah, we've got some weird thing going on over here. This is what I tried to make the code avoid doing, but every so often a few manage to do it. I think I need a more consistent way of achieving this. The best way I can think of is keeping track of let's think. I suppose I could spawn off of the previous mesh at a fixed kind of minimum distance. Something like that. I would get like when I spawn one mesh, it then spawns the next one utilizing the location of the previous one, and then it makes it relative to that mesh or something. And instead of the location inherently being random, the offset is random. That might make it work. So for instance, if I had a mesh that spawned at 0, 0, 0, I could make the other mesh spawn within a random x and y, but with a minimum of like 100 x and y. So I could get a random float between 100 and like 200 or something, and still do the whole check for like spawn radius and stuff, but it would at least lessen the amount of times that all this happens. But anyway, I will stop talking about that now. So yeah, the AI is looking really clean now. They behave very very well. I've not had any issues with them, and the FPS is still only at like 15, but I don't know. I've optimized the particle effects, the lighting, the static meshes, the AI. I'm struggling to find where the problems actually are for a lot of it. This is chaotic, but I love it. It's great just watching the combat come out. So yeah, my next plan, like I said, is to make like a spaceship to go back here, that they can fight around, and then make a few more types of asteroids and things. And then I'm gonna actually have to start making different types of weapons and introducing the concept of abilities and things. The AI for using abilities is going to be maybe not too tricky, depending on what they are. Some of them might be redundant, but I guess a few will be fairly straightforward. For instance, if they have the shield ability that gives them improved shield regen, or it like forces their shield to constantly regenerate or something, then they can just on tick use it to detect whether or not their shields are a certain value and trigger it then. Like if there was a damage boost one, as soon as the target gets set, they activate it. Speed boost they can pretty much use if the velocity is greater than a certain amount. It's not too tricky. It's just some of them are going to be only really be useful in certain situations, I suppose. But yeah, I'm just gonna double check what I had, because I've got a list for the abilities. Let me just where's that? There it is. Here we go. Yeah, we've got shield, speed boost, blink, which is like a short range teleport. That might be a little awkward to make them work with it. I mean, I could make them functionally use it. It's just it would be challenging because you teleport in the direction you're facing, which they may not always want to do. Repair and build is a concept of building. Will be an interesting one, because I eventually want to allow you to be able to construct like a turret or a shield generator or physical barriers or something. Invisibility, well, that's just a given. I suppose I could disable the AI's combat, but of course invisibility is just going to mean they can't be targeted, which is easy to achieve. I just make it so the AI never bothers to detect them. The EMP is going to disable everyone's shields, which is just to get enemies in a radius. So later on, I plan on having weapons that actually have ammo. Some more ballistic stuff like rockets, mines. There was something else. I don't know, but like maybe wire-guided missiles or something. I could make kind of almost like a fun mini game with a tow missile approach, where you take control over the missile. You know, the camera locks onto that, and then you fly the missile around. That would be cool. And radar is going to do like a pulse that will temporarily raise the camera up so you can see more of the map, and perhaps outline enemies or something in a large area temporarily. I need to update this site. But yeah, so that's it really. It's been running in the background. So yeah, that's most of my code changes have been efficiency improvements, which I've done a lot of work on, and making the AI function a bit more, I don't know, natural possibly. Yeah. So obviously I'm not actually. I mean, I've played this myself, but you know, as a character, but there's not enough. Oh, sorry. Let me. There's not enough variety, at least from a player's standpoint, to do things, and I need to put in UI that shows you sort of like triangles around the side of the screen with colors that denote the objectives and who currently has control over them. Is there a app I could? Oh yeah, hang on, let me. So it'd literally be something like this, and there's a one of ours down here, and then there's, oh sorry, be that's not gonna work. Well, there's like an arrow over here, and then there's one down here or something. It's terrible. All that kind of stuff. You wouldn't need much more than that. I might put like energy, shields, health bar kind of down here, that may be dynamic and only turns on when necessary. And then you'll probably have like weapon here, box for your ability with like the usual cooldown kind of thing. The usual ammos, something out, whatever. Just quickly doing some UI design. I might have a mini map up here somewhere. I'm not sure if a mini map would be necessary. I think the sizes would be the size of the maps is going to be enough that you can just kind of fly around and accidentally find things. I mean, end of the day, it's the objectives that are the important bits. So, or at least in the main game modes and stuff. Yeah. I mean, I could possibly. Is there anything else I really need for this? No, I think it's going to be pretty basic. I mean, there could be like a charge bar underneath your character when you've got like a charged up weapon that does like, you know, a big laser beam thing that shoots out, you know, all the usual kind of stuff. Anyway, that's the plan. The UI is going to be very minimal, intentionally, because I don't think it's as necessary for games of this nature to have a lot of UI. And I will eventually change the particle effects to be more like an actual physical round barrier, which I believe is just a case of making a static mesh particle emitter and then applying a material onto it that's translucent. And the emitter just changes the properties of the material over time, something like that. There's a lot of guides people have done for using the Niagara particle system for it, so that would be really cool, because as much as I like my little sphere balls of like shield energy and health energy and stuff, I'd much rather have an actual physical sphere that even like responds to when it gets hit, and like does a little flash effect from the direction that it got hit and all that kind of stuff. And it will probably make the FPS a bit better, because then it's not generating new particles, it's one particle effect that happens to have a material that changes. Hey, I'm AFK. I'm doing a tutorial guide thing. Stop it. Alright, cool. That will do for now then. I will try and keep, instead of doing full game dev programmy kind of things, which can be quite annoying to do sometimes, because sometimes I am honestly just sat there trying to figure shit out, which not everybody's particularly interested in, although it is very important. But I guess the main part of the code is done now. Like it functions. I just could make it function better or differently. I've got a to-do list somewhere still. And yeah, when I do like weapons and things, I'll explain that, but that's really straightforward. There'll just be a weapon object with a fire function, and the AI goes, fire my weapon, please, and passes in the target, and the weapon figures it all out, basically. And the AI shouldn't have to do anything different. So yeah, I will stop it here and keep it briefer than some of my other ones, and probably a bit more interesting, perhaps. But we are getting to the stage where this is just a case of adding new content to existing stuff. So cool. I will keep it going. I will hopefully have a couple more things to talk about in the next couple days. So yeah, see you guys around.